everybody and welcome. In about 3 weeks, my husband and I will be traveling to Japan and I am so excited. We will be exploring the regions of Chugoku and Shikoku principally for about 2.5 weeks and I can't wait. It is our third time going to Japan together, my fourth because I went once to Tokyo for work, and it is our favorite country to visit whenever we have the time and the budget to travel far. And so we're so excited. We both love Japan so much, and I already have so many plans of activities and visits, and I can't wait. So usually when I have a big event coming up, I like to sew something special for it. For example, the last time we went to Japan was for our honeymoon in Kyushu, and I designed an entire handmade wardrobe of old pieces and a few new pieces, so not all new pieces. That would have been impossible, but I did that last time. And then I also, for example, for my wedding, designed my own wedding dress and made it, and that was important to me. Probably the most high pressure situation and garment that I've ever made for a big event, and that will not be what I'm focusing on this time. This time I did have a few pieces in mind that I thought would be great to bring along with me, but rather than making new pieces, I want to concentrate on old, well-loved pieces that I want to update and bring with me, or newly made pieces that don't quite fit right that I want to alter because I think they have great potential for this travel. So I have 4 projects to share with you today, and the first and priority project is my trench coat. This is the Isla trench coat by Named Patterns that I want to update because it is in bad shape. It is badly frayed along lots of the edges, and then I want to replace the lining, especially in the sleeves where it's all ripped up. Then I want to work on, for example, this sweater that has shrunk with wash and wear over the past year because I've only had it for a year, or I made it a year ago, that I want to try and reblock and stretch. I have this top that I recently made. The neckline is too big and I want to try and modify that so that it gapes less. A lot of these techniques I've never used before, so this is not a tutorial, an expert tutorial on how to do this, but I figured that showing you the techniques that I'm going to use might inspire you or give you ideas as to how to update and customize your own wardrobe, whether it be handmade or ready to wear, and prolong the longevity of your garments. And so I hope you enjoy, and let's get started. The first project that I'm going to be working on, and that is my ultimate priority for this trip, is my Isla trench coat by Named Patterns. I made this back in 2018, and it is my most worn coat because it is perfect for fall and spring and anytime it's just a little bit chilly and you need something, or when it's raining. This is a double-sided gabardine fabric, cotton gabardine, from Sacré Coupon, which is one of my favorite fabric shops in Paris because that is where I live. By the way, if you're new here, hello. And it is double-sided with a black gabardine fabric. And so originally, and for a while, I thought it was a scuba fabric, but then just yesterday I was inspecting this garment and looking through the holes in the sleeve lining, and I realized that it's a gabardine on the inside as well. So it's double-sided, 2 layers of gabardine, one black, one beige, against each other, and I bought it that way. I didn't underline it myself because someone asked me in my last video about that. And now that I've been wearing it a lot over the past 8 years, it is starting to show signs of wear, very, very desperate signs of wear. So the cuffs here have gone threadbare along this edge, and the black gabardine is showing through. The same along the corner of the collar and the hem. The pocket, anywhere where my bag, so I wear a crossbody bag, anywhere where that touches my coat has rubbed raw. So along the center front here, that's also from the waist tie, or along the shoulders, there's signs of wear for my bags, and then especially the front right pocket. Let's see if I can lift this up for you. This pocket is just absolutely destroyed. It's even come detached, so I need to hand sew that down again so that it's not just flapping open. But yeah, this is the state of my pocket. And so what I want to do is use 2 different techniques that I found in a YouTube video. So I found a video by Bookhou, who is a Canadian creator. I think it's a team of 2 people. And I think the person narrating the video is Runa Kunaraj, who is an author and creator that I absolutely love and adore. I love her creations, and I follow her now on YouTube and Instagram. And she showed in a video 2 different mending techniques for the frayed edge of a jean pocket. And so it's similar weight to this cotton gabardine, and I thought that those techniques would work for this coat. So the first method that I'll be using that she explains in her video is a thread wrapping method. And I'll be using that method in all of the areas where I don't want the mending to be very obvious. I want it to kind of blend in with the gabardine fabric or the trench. And then the other technique that she shows is a fabric wrapping technique where you cut a piece of binding out of an extra piece of fabric and then wrap it around that edge. And I will be using this fabric. This is a cotton fabric that I found in Kyushu, and it is this really gorgeous sort of sashiko embroidery looking cotton. And because the base of the beige of this fabric matches this trench exactly, I think that little pieces of this sort of wrapped around the cuff will look really gorgeous. And then I'm going to use that on the right pocket where there's so much wear. And so that's what I'll be doing. Also, I want to replace the lining. So when I first made this coat, I wanted to imitate a Burberry coat because I couldn't afford it, and I thought that it would be really cool to be able to make something that looked like something that I couldn't afford. And so I picked out this plaid lining. It's a polyester twill, but I don't really like the color anymore. I think that it doesn't really go with what I wear. For example, right now I'm wearing seamwork Joss pants. I prefer cooler, brighter summer colors, and I think that this is a little bit too warm, and it doesn't really go with most of what's in my wardrobe. And so I want to replace it, even though it's not ruined. It's still holding up pretty well. And originally, in my Spring Makes video that I just published recently, I was planning on replacing it with this cotton gingham fabric that is a dark navy blue and white background, but I think that the white background is a little bit too cool. I'll just keep that for something else. And instead, I asked you on Instagram to vote for which fabric you preferred. You confirmed what I thought, which is great, and that this fabric would actually be really lovely on the inside. So this is a yarn-dyed cotton that I found at Material Happiness in San Diego. It will be a little bit more sober than what I have currently, but I think it's going to be really, really gorgeous. And then I also have this fabric, this sort of champagne pinky lining fabric to replace these sleeves, because let me show you, the sleeves are absolutely destroyed. This is the sleeve. It is ripped to pieces on the inside, especially around where it attaches to the lining at the shoulder. And so I will be replacing it with this. It doesn't match this fabric very well, but it's going to be invisible, so, and I had it on hand for another project. I can't even remember what I was going to use it for. So yeah, I think it'll be fine, and nobody will see it anyway, so it'll be better that way. But my priority is mending, so I'm going to get to that right away and show you how I do it. First, I'm going to be working on the thread wrapping technique, and I was looking for threads of my DMC cotton embroidery thread collection from other projects that I could use. And I think that my choices were between this lighter color and this darker color. And I think that I will be going with the darker color rather than the lighter one, because I think that the darker one has more of a chance of looking lighter once I embroider it versus the lighter one. And then I will be using a clover needle. I'm not sure which size it is, but it came from the side, so I think it's more of a 7 or 8 in this range of numbers 7 to 10. And I like this one because it goes through the fabric really easily, but it doesn't leave a big hole after. It does leave a little bit of a mark, but not super obvious like other needles, and it's thick enough to get through the fabric as well, so I won't be breaking needles or having to push really hard. So that's that, and I can get started. So it's been a few hours, and I've only gotten 2 parts of the thread wrapping done. So the first was this collar stand piece, and I think it went pretty well. I think that on edges it works a lot better than on surfaces. So for example, I also tried to do the shoulder where it has rubbed, and I don't like how 3D that is. It sort of stands up from the shoulder there, and I was trying to flatten it out, but it just creates a very bulky effect. So yeah, my hands are already really sore and tired because it's really hard getting the needle and thread through this fabric. This fabric is very tough. I think I'm going to unpick this. I think that this method works a lot better on edges, so I'm going to continue doing edges, so the other collar stand, and then I have the whole front edge to do from about here to here. Hopefully I get this done before the end of the day because I don't have a whole lot of time, and I was hoping to get to the lining by this evening, which I don't think is going to happen, but oh well. I must persevere. So it's later in the afternoon now, and I have finished thread wrapping all of the small areas where I wanted to do it. So along the collar stands, and then especially along the hem and little corners where the fabric had kind of gone threadbare a little bit. And so I have decided, because it's so hard thread wrapping with this fabric, I've even broken a needle. That's how hard it is to get the needle and thread through this fabric. I'm not going to thread wrap the front like this. This would take me at least 3 hours. I am in the end going to fabric wrap it. So now I can get to fabric wrapping and see how that goes. Good morning. So I finished last night feeling pretty discouraged after working on this for about 7 hours yesterday. But this morning I feel better and more positive. I think that it really does help to sleep on it sometimes. I have pretty much finished attaching all of the fabric strips to the areas that I want to cover with this fabric. And so I'm going to do that now. I have all of the other strips that I'm going to be applying as well already cut out, and hopefully finish the shell soon. So it is about 5:45 in the evening now, and I have finished putting together all of the mending and patching that I wanted to do on the outer shell. So I'm excited. That was a lot of work. My hands are actually doing a lot better. I was using 2 different thimbles, if you noticed in the video. They don't fit very well. They slip off quite easily, but my fingers feel less painful today than they did yesterday. So that's a good thing. But I finished doing all of the fabric wrapping around the cuffs, and then I also did the center front. So I decided to only do the right center front edge of the lapel, because that's where the most of the wear was showing and where the black gabardine was showing through, and it was completely threadbare because that's where my bag strap and bag rub. And so I did that. I made the decision not to do fabric binding from top all the way to the bottom because I wanted it to look more like mending than like a design choice. I thought that, yeah, a patch would look better. I don't know. I wanted that for the new version of this coat. And then I decided that I didn't want to add a patch here to this side, even though it is starting to show some wear and fraying. It's not very dramatic, and it'll be hidden by the front, this right front, when it's closed, when the coat is closed, and then when it's open, it sort of hangs open this way. On this side, it's not that bad. So I think for now, I'm gonna leave it be and let it do its thing. And then I also finished the pocket, so sewing fabric patches to the top edge and the bottom, and then wrapping around this edge here that was completely destroyed, and then resewing the pocket down to the coat so that it doesn't come detached when I put my hand in. Oh, and the shoulders. So I tried using a fabric patch on the shoulders, and it was even more conspicuous and flashy than doing the thread wrapping like I did yesterday. So with embroidery thread, you get 6 strands, and I was using all 6 strands yesterday, which is why it was so very hard to get my needle and thread through the fabric. And so I decided to reduce it to 3 strands, so half the amount of strands in the thread, and do it that way so that it would be a little bit more subtle and as flat as possible. I think it's not entirely flat, but I think it's okay, and it might not be as resistant or sturdy, but I think that it looks better. I did it here as well and along the shoulder where it needed it. So hopefully it'll be fine and it'll hold up to wear because that's where my bag straps rub, but I think it looks good and I'm really happy with it. It kind of feels like my coat is coming back to life. So now I need to work on the lining. Let me turn it inside out for you so I can show it to you again. So this is the state of the inside, and as you can see, these sleeves are absolutely destroyed, and I cannot put this coat on without getting my hands caught in these giant holes in the sleeve lining, so that absolutely needs to be replaced. The body lining is, like I said at the top of the video, polyester, and I want to change it for style reasons, but I think also it's just a little bit too thick and warm for a lining. I don't need that much warmth, and because it's polyester, it doesn't breathe very much, and it's sort of felted over time. It's got almost a flannel feel to it, and so I think it'll be nice to replace it with something a little bit more smooth. I think I have time to cut out the pieces, and I'm excited to have this back in use and back in good shape. Good afternoon. I meant to film or start filming in the morning, but it is indeed the afternoon because as soon as I sat down to sew, nothing worked. I had to troubleshoot my camera, then my laptop, and now my machine because I was trying to stitch the sleeve lining for this coat, and for some reason I had thread tension issues, and this has almost never happened with this machine before, and I, for the very first time, had to adjust the thread tension with the thread on top, and I turned it to 3 rather than leaving it on auto, which is a first for me, and it sews much better, but this fabric is just really difficult. I rethreaded the top and bottom threads, I changed my needle for a fresh needle, I put on my walking foot, and it was still really tight on top, and the bottom thread was looping really aggressively towards the surface. I don't know how to describe that, I don't remember the vocabulary, but hopefully you get the idea. I have also decided that even though the seam allowances in this pattern is 1 centimeter, that I would still like to do French seams along the side seams of the sleeves because this fabric is really delicate and I am still a little bit nervous about the stitches not being strong or durable. And I think that that will create a more durable finish, especially because I can't imagine a full overlocking stitch with my machine because I don't have an overlocker, not mangling it a bit. So I think, yeah, a French seam will be much neater. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm sewing the sleeves together, both of them. Then I will be sewing the body and pattern matching with these stripes that I hope I cut out correctly, we shall see, and then attaching the sleeves to the body and then the whole thing to the coat after I rip out the old lining. So hopefully I'll get all that done today. Cross your fingers for me and then I have no more troubleshooting to have to do. And I'm gonna get started. So I've finished taking out the old lining of my coat, but before putting in the new lining, I do want to take a little bit of a break and start working on, or work on, some of the other projects that I presented to you at the beginning of this video because I have been thinking about or working on them. And the first is my seamwork Callen sweater. I did a few days ago reblock it because I knew it would take a few days to dry and I wanted to show you the result. So I reblocked it with a soap that you don't have to rinse out called Soak in the fig scent, and it was lovely. And then I blocked it out on my new knitting block mats, and I used a newer Callen sweater that I made just a few weeks ago to figure out how long I wanted the sleeves and the body, so the original length that it should be, then let it dry. And it took a good 2-3 days to dry. And I thought that it had worked out because it was pretty easy to stretch when it was wet, and it stayed that way when I took out the pins that were pinning it down to the blocks. But then when I put it on, it was still pretty short in the sleeves, so I wanted it to be at least to my wrist when my arms were moving around, because the old length was down to the base of my thumb and then around my wrist when I was sort of bending my elbows and reaching and things. This one is at my wrist when I pull it and don't move my arm, and it's still in that sort of awkward in between wrist and 3/4 length on my forearm, so not ideal. It didn't work out, which is a bit of a shame. Some of you suggested just sewing on an extra cuff or an extra long cuff to the end of the sleeve, and that's a possibility, but the newer fabric of the same fabric that I have is much stretchier, softer, not as pilly, not as stiff, and so I think that the difference in texture will be noticeable, and also I kind of want a newer sweater in that texture all over now that I know how to better take care of this fabric. But yeah, I can still wear this to Japan. It's still a great sweater, and I'm not sure if I'll have time to make a new one anyway before I go. So that's that. And then my second project that I'd like to get to right now is my silver Edie top that I want to fix. So this fabric is a 100% cotton, or I think there's a little elastane in it as well, but it's a cotton rib knit, and it's pretty squishy. It's got a dry touch to it, which I like, and it's medium weight. The rib knit makes it extra stretchy underneath my presser foot when I sew it by machine. And even though I put bias tape to stabilize the neckline as the instructions tell you to, it did stretch out, and I was using a walking foot and it still stretched out, which is a shame. So there's about 2 to 3 centimeters of extra fabric that gapes when I wear it. So I wanted to take that in, and first I thought I would add a dart at the shoulder seam here. But then one of you commented in my last video that I could use a round elastic thread to take it in at the neckline, so sew it into the neckline and then pull to sort of add elasticity and pull that neckline in. And I've done that before with hand knit garments, so in the armhole or neckline to tighten that up. And so I have the thread. I have a needle as well that both pierces the fabric and fits this round elastic through the eye of the needle. So I think I'll do that. I'll just sort of baste it by hand around the neckline and pull it in and see if it works. And then for the length, it is extra long, and I didn't stabilize the hem before stitching it when I made it. I didn't use the double stick knit interfacing that I have because I didn't think it was necessary, and it stretched out. It's super wavy. This Aola top that I'm wearing, the Coralie Bigasson Aola top, I made in the exact same fabric, and I used the knit interfacing for the hems on this one, and they're much more stable, much less wavy, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm not cutting it off just for that. It's also that I think that it's way too long. I don't need this length. It goes all the way down to my hips, and it just sort of hangs out because I do tuck it in most of the time when I'm wearing it. It just sort of hangs out around my bum and bulks. And so I want to cut off about 3 inches or 8 centimeters and then redo the hem. And then, yeah, hopefully be able to wear it. So I will get to that Edie top surgery now and let you know how it goes. I am really excited because I have finally reached the last stages of this renovation project on my dearly beloved trench coat. So I have finished all of the machine stitching that I could do. I machine stitched the facing down, for example, as well as the sleeves. Now I need to do the hem and the vent by hand. I have sort of pinned it in place here so that I know where to stitch. And then I just need to stitch on the cuff buttons again. So that's it, but I'm almost finished. I have my needle ready. I have preconditioned some thread with beeswax that'll be nice and strong and last for however much longer this coat will last. And I'm ready to go. I am so very pleased with how this coat turned out. I wasn't sure if this was going to work or if I was going to like it, especially the fabric wrapping techniques, but it turned out even better than I thought it would. I love the almost sashiko kind of detail of this fabric and how it matches so well the base beige color of this trench coat. It just fits in so easily, and it was a pleasure to sew, at least the sashiko fabric. This gabardine fabric was difficult to sew, both by machine and by hand, which I remember from when I first created it 8 years ago, which is also why I am not eager about sewing a completely new one, because that would take at least 5 times more of the time than it did for me to mend this, even though it was a big project. I originally thought that I would be able to do it in about 2 to 3 days, and we're now on day 6 of between 6 and 8 hours of work per day. But I am so glad I got to it. I have been putting this project off for at least 2 years, and I didn't think it would work. And so I'm glad. I love this coat. And I'm glad that I was able to fix this Edie top. I think I perhaps overcorrected with the elastic here at the neckline, so I'm probably gonna go and fix that off camera. But I'm glad that this is a technique that does actually work and that will save this Edie top and make it much more wearable for me and not gape when I move around. And I like the new length as well, because it's much easier to tuck into, for example, these Seymour Joss pants and not have a whole lot of fabric in the belly and the lower back just gathering there and creating a lot of bulk. And then there's my Seymour Callen sweater that didn't quite work out. It's still usable, but I think that I've made up my mind now. I will be making a new one out of the same fabric because I have a cut of 2 more meters of it, and I'm excited. And now I know that this fabric needs to be hand washed only, not machine washed. Even with other woolens and on delicate, it needs to be hand washed or washed as little as possible. So I'll have to just be very careful not to wear it against my skin and have a layer in between to sort of soak up sweat and other things that might create odor when I wear it, which I usually do anyway because it is a little bit itchy. So yeah, that is the status of my projects, and I'm so happy that I saved this coat. This coat has been my companion through so many seasons, so many experiences, even abroad. I would bring it with me, especially when I was working in publishing, to the Frankfurt Book Fair and London Book Fair every single year, because it is my fall and spring staple coat. And it has lived through so many experiences with me, and I just can't let go of it yet. And so I'm so happy I was able to prolong its life. I hope that you found this video interesting or even inspiring as to how to renew or prolong the life of your favorite handmade or ready-to-wear garments. I will include in the description below the link to Bookhou's video about the fabric wrapping and thread wrapping techniques that I used for the coat, so don't hesitate to check that out. I will also link below all of the outfits that I wore during this vlog. A lot of you ask what I'm wearing in these videos, and so I will list for you all of the clothes that I wore and all the corresponding patterns, because they're all handmade and based on sewing patterns, if you'd like to check that out as well. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to like and subscribe, and if you would like to leave a tip, I will include my Ko-fi account in the description below, or you can leave a YouTube super thanks if you prefer that option. Any contributions are a huge help to keep this channel going and boosts my motivation to keep making content for you, so I would greatly appreciate it. I hope you are all doing well. I will see you again here very soon with a new video. Take care, and bye-bye.